welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and I'm here today to do the mid-year book freakout tag. This tag has been around on BookTube I don't even know how many years. This is my first time doing it, so I'm really excited to look back at the first 6 months of the year. I'm not even going to talk about how 6 months are already gone. Like, we don't even need to mention this, I think. So we'll start off with the banger. The first question: what is the best book I read so far in 2021? And for that, immediately I need to say The Final Revival of Opal and Nev by Donnie Walton. This book essentially is an interview style book that follows a woman named Sunny, who is an editor at a big music magazine, and she's called by Opal in order to tell the story of Opal and Nev. Opal and Nev were a huge rock duo, I think it's in the 1960s or 70s, that had a big falling out and nobody has any idea what happened to them, and Sunny is essentially tasked with telling the story of them. This book is very similar to Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, so if you love that book, I would highly recommend this one. I think this one does a lot more. It not only discusses feminism, which Daisy Jones and the Six does, but it also discusses the intersectionality with being Black in America, especially at the time. This book, I cannot recommend it enough. Donnie Walton's writing was fantastic. Her characters were so developed and amazing. And I think if you like this genre of like music nonfiction, and if you like it being twisted with historical fiction, you will really enjoy this, and I cannot recommend it enough. Definitely my favorite book so far that I've read in 2021, and one of the few 5-star reads I've given. The next question is the best sequel that you've read so far in 2021, and that has to be Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. I am obsessed with this series. I have at this point read all of them. This was definitely the better sequel out of the trilogy. This essentially follows a world in which humans have conquered death. It is impossible to die unless a scythe gleans you. So if it is your chosen time to be gleaned, that is how the scythes control the overgrowing population. The world is also run by this utopic, all-encompassing AI, and so this book series really discusses like death, human value, AI, technology. It really encompasses a lot, and I think Neil Shusterman does it very well, especially in this one. We really saw the stakes raise higher for the main characters. I think Neil Shusterman also did something interesting, a lot of twists in this book, and it turned this book from what was a discussion about death and humanity into something really great. I love the characters in this series. I love the discussions that it has. Like I said, I really like the villains in this series. I think they're really like fucked up, and I enjoy that. So without getting too much into it, if you liked Scythe, I would highly recommend continuing on with the series. If you like utopia, dystopia, I think this series is definitely a must read for a lot of people. It's so good. Neil Shusterman's writing was fantastic. It made me want to pick up way more from this author than I have before. The next question is a new 2021 release that you just haven't read yet. And for that, speaking of Taylor Jenkins Reid, here I have Malibu Rising. This is her newest release, and I am hyped is not even the word that I can use to describe how incredibly excited I am to read this book. Everyone wants to be around the famous Rivas. Nina is the talented surfer and supermodel. Jay is a championship surfer, and Hud is a renowned photographer, and their adored baby sister Kit, I guess she doesn't have anything to her name. Together, the siblings are a source of fascination in Malibu and the world, especially as the offspring of the legendary singer Mick Riva, who is one of the husbands in The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, another fantastic Taylor Jenkins Reid book. So I don't really want to read more because I've seen mixed reviews about this book so far, so I'm a little bit scared but very excited. I feel like this is following in Taylor Jenkins Reid's model of like historical nonfiction, where these characters feel so real but she's invented them. Honestly, I've just adored everything I've read from Taylor Jenkins Reid, which is why I needed to pick this up. I will read pretty much anything she has written. I really want to tackle her backlist, but this is one that I need to read by the end of this year. The next question is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and for that I have All's Well by Mona Awad. If you watched my best books of 2020, Bunny, that book changed my life. It made me so fucking uncomfortable and anxious, and for a really long time, even to this day, I'm not sure if I fucking hate that book or if I fucking love that book. That to me makes for such a good book. I'm so excited for this one. So from what I understand, this follows a professor named Miranda Fitch, and the accident that ended her acting career left her with excruciating chronic back pain, a failed marriage, and a deepening dependence on painkillers. Now she is on the verge of losing her job as the college theater director. Determined to put on Shakespeare's All's Well That Ends Well, the play that promised and cost her everything, she faces a mutinous cast hell-bent on staging Macbeth instead. Miranda sees her chance of redemption slip through her fingers. I am Shakespeare's whore. I am so excited to read this book. Mona, I cannot wait until this woman destroys me. The next question is one that I really don't want to spend time on. This is your biggest disappointment. For me, that book is Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. What a trash book. This book was extremely hyped for me simply because a lot of my friends told me that I would enjoy this book and that it was really good. And then, you know, the TV show has been doing really well. It's like critically acclaimed. So I was like, for sure, this classic sci-fi, which to me now means a red flag, should be good. It should be amazing. And I'm sorry to all my straight white male friends, but this book was absolute trash. I don't even want to talk about the synopsis. I don't want to encourage it. If you want to read it, go right ahead. But I just thought this book like was not interesting. The characters were extremely boring. The mystery in the book didn't make sense. The detective had a very strange, disgusting relationship with a dead young woman. The fact that this has people buzzing, I'm just questioning everybody. And people, you know, people always say, Kelsey, it gets better, read the series. I'm not reading a 9-book series when the first one was such trash, and that's where I'm gonna end it. I'm so disappointed by this book. It's probably gonna be like my least favorite book I read all year. I'm done. On a happier note, the next question is the biggest surprise. So for that, I'm gonna pick Girls on Fire by Robin Wasserman. This book was one of the biggest surprises I read this year. I didn't expect to like this book at all. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I picked this book up for a vlog. It essentially follows a girl named Hannah Dexter who is kind of taken under the wings of a extravagant gothy punk girl named Lacey Champlain, and they become really fast friends. But obviously this book is more of an exploration of toxic girl best friends and toxic thinking and the manipulation that girls can have on one another when they are extremely codependent on each other for each other's happiness. But this book really shocked me at how well it's written. I didn't know that Robin Wasserman was this fantastic of a writer, and if she has other books released, I immediately want to read them because this book captivated me. It pulled me in. I listened to it on audio, and every time I wasn't listening to this book, I wanted to pick it up because I was so captivated by Hannah and Lacey's story and this like toxicity and codependency that was so gruesome. Major trigger warnings like for everything. I don't think there's one thing that this book doesn't touch upon. So if you're not someone who gravitates towards darker reads, I would recommend staying away from this. But if you're like me and you really like dark, almost a tad too much in books, I think you'll really enjoy this one. Definitely the biggest surprise. I did not go into this expecting much, and I came out of this like thinking this is one of the best books I read in that vlog. The next question is your newest favorite author. It could be a debut author or a new to you author, and for me, she's definitely not a debut author, but this is Robin Hobb. This year, all I have read so far is The Willful Princess and The Piebald Prince. And this woman changed my life. And after that, I bought The Assassin's Apprentice, and I'm definitely reading it in July. This novella is how many pages? It's not even that much. It's 150 pages, and you could tell that Robin Hobb is literally the most talented author I have read this year. This is essentially a novella that falls into her Realm of the Elderling series, which is a very expansive series filled with like, I think 4 trilogies, if I'm correct, or 3 trilogies. Whatever. But this book follows a princess named Caution Farseer. In defiance of her name, she was a very headstrong and willful person, and essentially she falls in love with the wrong person, and their son deals with the consequences afterwards. This was beautiful. I literally almost cried reading it. I read this and I was like, I need to read more from this author. Robin Hobb will continue to surprise me this year. I know it, and she will be a favorite author at the end of 2021, I'm sure of it. The next question is a newest fictional crush, and I don't get crushes on book characters anymore. After listening to myself give this pretentious ass fucking answer, I'm gonna have to say Jane. Jane from One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. Even though I didn't really like the book overall and it had some problems, you can wait till my wrap up to hear that. Jane was a babe, an absolute babe. and I would do anything to be with her. The next question is your newest favorite character. So for much of the same reason, like, this question was hard for me. Like, I read books for characters, but I don't think about them later on. But the one that has stuck with me the most is Opal from the final revival of Opal and Nev. I think she was an astounding character, a very interesting woman. Donnie Walton made her feel real. So if I had to pick one character this year, I would definitely say Opal. And she's part of the reason why I enjoy this book so much. The next question is a book that made you cry, and for that I'm gonna go. My original answer for this was The House of the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. However, it recently came out that T.J. Klune was inspired by the 60s scoop for this story. And if you don't know what the 60s scoop is, it was a act enacted in Canada that essentially allowed welfare workers to pick up Indigenous children and put them in the homes of white families so that they can have, quote unquote, a better life. So that makes me really uncomfortable, and I'm changing my answer to Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig. I think solely on the title alone, it is fairly obvious that this book would have an impact on me. Matt Haig is very open with his struggles with depression and anxiety, and having experienced those two things myself, it was extremely validating for me to read from an author who essentially feels the same way that I do, and reading his story and reading his advice was really helpful for me. On top of that, I have read quite a bit of books from Matt Haig, and I love his writing style. It is simple, but I think he is able to condense his words in such a way that make every sentence feel really, really important and impactful. So while I did only give this a 4 out of 5 stars, I think overall it is a really important read and obviously meant a lot to me when I read it. The next question is a book that made you happy, and for that I'm just gonna say Heartstopper Volume 4. I love Nick and Charlie. This graphic novel series follows a boy named Charlie Spring who has always been out at his boys' grammar school. He then meets Nick, and the boys have a fast friendship that obviously eventually turns into a very loving and healthy relationship. I love these characters. I love this series. Even though this specific volume tackles harder subjects, the overall series and the overall feeling I have when I read these books is just giddy, and I love them so much. If you have not picked up this graphic novel series, I would highly recommend. The next question is the most beautiful book you've acquired this year. And for that, I'm gonna go with Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo, because people have been shitting on this cover, and I just think it is gorgeous. I don't know how you could think it's ugly. And like the end papers, the front cup, like I just don't understand how this is an ugly book. And I'm using it for this prompt, even though I might have other pretty books, because I want to mention that this is not an ugly book, and it bothers me that people say it's ugly. Just for a synopsis, this is the final book in the King of Scars duology. This is the 3rd series in Leigh Bardugo's Grishaverse. I won't go too much into details because this book does have spoilers for the Shadow and Bone trilogy and the Six of Crows duology. But not only is this book beautiful, I am so excited to read it. I'm so excited to see how it ends. People have been polarized about the ending, so I really want to know where I stand. And the last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? I have like 200 books on my TBR, and all of them, I would love to read all of them. I can't really think of a book I need to read, like Rule of Wolves, I guess, Malibu Rising, The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. Those are all books I have goals to read this year. I'm also finishing out the Brandon Sanderson books that I have on my TBR. So I have quite a bit of goals, but I still have a lot of books that I want to read. So that's it. That was the mid-year book freakout tag. If you would like to comment down below and answer some of the questions, I will leave the questions in the description. And I would love to read some of your answers. If you would like to follow me on any other social platforms, I do leave a link to my Goodreads, Twitter, and Instagram down below. And if you would also do me a solid and like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell of this video, it really helps my channel and makes me feel really good. But yeah, I don't know what else to say, and I don't know how to end these things, so I guess I will see you next time. Bye!